Hello, my dear students of class 10. Welcome again to the continuation of the lesson The Ambitious Guest. So, in the previous class, we have seen how the young man enters the cottage of the family and how they start sharing their own experiences and their ambition in life, about their dreams, about their future, right? So, as they were discussing among themselves, then we see that suddenly an avalanche of rocks, the rocks from the mountain starts falling down. Yes, and there was a thunderous roar. Okay, there was a loud roar of the falling of rocks. Now that time, everyone starts to run for the shelter, which the family has built for such an event. Now let us continue. They scream as they attempt to escape the disaster. The story ends on an ironic note, and writers use irony to highlight the difference between what is expected and what actually occurs. So, the writers mostly they use this irony in order to show, okay, that what is expected as the story goes on. The expectation of the readers is different, but at the end, what actually occurs is completely opposite from what is expected. Instead of finding safe shelter, Hawthorne reveals that the family has actually run into the arms of death. Now, in the story, what happens? This family, instead of running for safe shelter when the rocks were falling down, this family, the place which they thought that it would protect them, they runs to that very place, and in fact, instead of running to shelter, they runs to this family they go towards the arms of death. That means they themselves they goes to the arms of death. Their cozy cottage was unharmed. Now what happens? The cottage where they were staying, their cottage was unharmed. Okay, the rocks did not harm the cottage, but the safer spot which they considered that it is safe, it was destroyed in the rock fall. Now the falling of the rocks destroyed the safe shelter. He tells the reader and the he tells the reader that the bodies of the families were never found. The final irony occurs when the shared destiny. Now let's see the irony of the lesson. The final irony occurs when the shared destiny of the group is revealed. The stories, now here we comes to know the plans, the ambition that they had, but the fate that they had to meet in the end. Okay, now it is shared, their destiny is shared and revealed. The story of the family's demise becomes legendary. Now here what happens? The story of this family's demise, okay, the tragedy that this family had to go through, the family had faced, it becomes legendary, it becomes famous. Okay, and yet, but what happens? The family becomes famous, but the person who wants to become famous, remember the young guest, he was expressing his ambition to become famous, to build a monument of himself before he dies, right? So instead of him getting famous, the family gets famous, legendary, and the ambitious guest, he goes unremembered. That means the world did not notice this young guest, the life of the young guest. In fact, some versions of the local legend doubt the young man, the existence of this young man. The people doubt, okay, that this young man ever existed. Hawthorne writes. Now he writes, his name and person means the guest. Okay, the young man's name and is utterly unknown. So even his name goes unknown by the world. His ambition was to be known, right? He wanted himself to be known by the world. But this person's name, even his name and he himself, he goes unknown. And his history, his way of life, and his plans for the future all remains to be a mystery. And this mystery was never to be solved. His death and existence equally a doubt. So all his life, his experience, his plans, all becomes a mystery. People never came to know about this person, and even his existence, that this person really existed and this person died. Even these two things remains totally a mystery, that is a doubt for the world. This is the story about the ambitious guest. Now this story, the ambitious guest, written by Hawthorne, this story is based on the real life, okay, on the real life tragedy, on the on the Wiley tragedy. So this story is a real life story, okay, and based on Wiley tragedy. That is all for now. Thank you very much, and I hope that you would submit your assignment on time.